So, Twitter Files Part 8. Gosh, if I made another Friday the 13th reference, what was 8? Was that Jason Goes to Hell? Oh no, now that you think about it, I screwed up yesterday. Yesterday, I made the reference Part 7, Michael Schellenberger Takes Manhattan. That was completely wrong. That was Part 8. Oh, I'm terrible at movie references. So I'm not even going to attempt it today because I can't think of another movie series that goes up to Part 8. Alrighty, I had to look it up. I was dying to know. Part 7 was The New Blood. That's what I should have said yesterday. Gosh. See, this is why people don't listen to me. It has nothing to do with poor production quality, spotty release dates, inconsistency. I always say I'm going to be back tomorrow, but these days, I'm not so consistent on that. Once upon a time, some of you folks have been around a long time, a handful of you, know that I was consistent 7 days a week. I always put something out. It might not always be at the same time, and it might be really late. It might be like really close to midnight, but I always made sure about it. But, there's no point stressing yourself out of stuff like this. I have this channel to vent my frustrations with the world. And so you can't take it too seriously. Nobody should. I think that's true for most things in life. Most of the stress that people have in at least in America, I think is self-imposed. But anyway, with that life advice aside, let's move on to the Twitter Files Part 8. And this one I think was quite interesting. Again, you go back to my hot take on the Twitter Files Part 1. I said this isn't going to change anything. I thought minds were made up, and I still maintain that to a certain extent. But the actual details that Musk is revealing are important. It's sort of like WikiLeaks. I've heard at least one person, I think, prominent, I can't remember who, compare this to WikiLeaks, and it's not as hardcore as WikiLeaks, but it's the same in kind. It's not the same in intensity, but it's the same in kind, because today Musk revealed that Twitter, unsurprisingly, I think we've all known this since the Arab Spring, was working to amplify Pentagon-controlled bot accounts that existed to promote, amplify, and manufacture narratives that were favorable to U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. The leaks, or I guess disclosures, can't call them leaks because we know they're coming from Musk. They detailed a lot of Arab language accounts that were controlled by CENTCOM, based up in Tampa, or at least there was communication between CENTCOM. I don't know if exactly CENTCOM was directly controlling it. Maybe it was the Pentagon, up in Arlington, but same difference, same people. And these were just stupid Twitter accounts that would say things like, "Oh, the drone strikes in Yemen, they don't kill civilians. That's just Iran propaganda." And they would write this in Arabic and say, like, "Hey, I'm a Yemeni and I love America," said nobody ever. And so even though I can't read Arabic, judging by the captions what we're told that these accounts were about, they don't sound very convincing. But these accounts nonetheless were amplified by the algorithm. They were favored by Twitter. They were treated as de facto blue check marks as far as the algorithm is concerned. You couldn't flag them for spam or abusive behavior, even though these accounts were overtly engaged in abusive behavior. And this was first discussed way back in, 2010? Was that when the Arab Spring was going on? Obama was president. They were trying to take out Hosni Mubarak, and everyone knew that that there were online social media campaigns being organized against all of these Arab leaders. And obviously, if U.S. foreign policy did not line up with the Arab Spring, the U.S. social media companies would have suppressed it. But the fact that it was that the Arab Spring not only survived but thrived was heavily pushed and elevated by social media companies, particularly Twitter. I think that everyone who has thought about this, and that's not a lot of people as far as the wider American population is concerned, not a lot of people still think about this stuff. You know, the whole idea of like, okay, Arab language, Middle East, people don't even remember the Middle East wars. They don't remember, you know, American foreign policy, 2001 to 2015. And it's just as bad now as it ever has been. It's just that people don't talk about it anymore. We don't talk about the wars in the Middle East. They just exist. But this is just a potent, a potent example of one way in which the Twitter, I sound like Betty White, Twitter was acting as a pawn of the state, as an organ of U.S. intelligence, spreading disinformation overtly. That is what the Pentagon was doing here. I don't think I really have to say that, but just in case you hadn't caught on yet, yes, they were spreading disinformation. And no one's shocked by this because, hypocrisy. No, there is no such thing as hypocrisy in 2022. I hope that people aren't taking that angle from it. No one, not even on the dirtbag left. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Dirtbag left usually refers to the people on the left that I like. The liberal left, the respectable people on the left who are allowed on television. None of them thought that, Twitter was being, like, even-handed. They thought that they would agree with us and that Twitter was heavily biased against the right, but that was justified because the right is a unique threat. So, yes, disinformation is okay when the Pentagon engages in it because the Pentagon has our best interests at heart. The Pentagon are the good guys. And you see the Trumpies, the Trump supporters, the people who disagree with U.S. foreign policy, the people of Yemen, they are the enemy. The Ruskies, they are the enemy. The Chinese, to a lesser extent, but the Iranians certainly, Iran, no good, very bad country. It's all purely team sports. That's all this is. There is no deeper meaning to the actions taken by Twitter, to their policies. They have no meaning. These were explicit sock puppet, manipulation, influence peddling, disinformation accounts. The Pentagon made that clear to Twitter, and Twitter amplified their message. And so you would say, well, what does this matter? Elon's in charge now. Twitter is not going to, presumably not doing this anymore if Elon's talking about it, so who cares? How's that going to change anything? Well, it exposes what Facebook and the other sites, what they're doing for the Pentagon and for the regime. Because every social media company, as we have seen, moves in concert. And so if Twitter was taking all these actions on behalf of the regime, I think you'd have to be pretty darn stupid to even question if these other companies weren't also doing it on behalf of the regime and weren't also amplifying sock puppet regime propaganda misinformation accounts and suppressing dissident speech, banning dissident speech, reporting dissident speech to the authorities so that they may be persecuted by the FBI. This is just the America that we live in. So, with that said, I think I'll be able to see you folks back here tomorrow. Maybe I should change my outro, because I always feel bad if I say that and then I don't show up the next day. I should probably change it to something a little less committal, because I do stress out about it. I do worry, when I break my word, which has been far too frequently, over the past couple months. But anyway, what's another thing I can say to go out? I already said see ya. How about toodaloo? That's a good one. I've never used that.